Okay, moving on to John G. Asks, hello, I hope this email finds you well. As far as I know, but that's one of those COVID-19 things. You could be mere minutes from death and actually think that you're feeling okay. You poor deluded colonialist. Question, has Dave ever met Jim Steranko? I recently picked up Nick Fury #3 to have as a companion to my Cerebus #2. I love them both and looking forward to the remastered Cerebus #2. Just looking at Jim Steranko's bio, he seems to be quite a character. I'm thinking if Dave met Steranko sometime in the 70s or 80s, then two A-type personalities like Jim and Dave would either have gotten along really well or ended up in a sword fight. Just wondering. Thanks for the time, JG. Jim Steranko was actually the first comics professional that I ever met at the first comic convention that I went to, CostaCon in Toronto, in March of 1972. And he was one of the guests. Joe Kubert was one of the guests. That was actually just the weekend after the first Joe Kubert Tarzan had come out. So obviously a good reason for Joe Kubert to be going to a convention to promote his version of Tarzan. And I stopped at Jim Steranko because he was just walking around the dealer's room at this convention at Winters College at York University, and just sort of, hey, you're Jim Steranko. And it's like, can I ask you a question? Sure, what is it? And I just asked him a question off the top of my head, and I think it was probably a particularly stupid question because I had really just stopped him because, wow, it's Jim Steranko. I need to talk to him so that he doesn't just walk past me. And I think he said, in answer to my question, I can't even remember what the question was, something very, very pithy and succinct and but cutting. And I did take umbrage as only a 15-year-old who believes that he knows everything there is to know about the world and how it works. So yes, we didn't get off on the right foot, but definitely Jim Steranko over the years has been a big supporter of mine. I don't know how many of the people listening remember Cerebus TV, where one of the season premiere episodes was Jim Steranko and me talking about Jack Kirby, where basically I recorded the whole thing. Mostly Jim talking about Jack Kirby, because Jim has certainly had a lot more experience and personal contact with Jack Kirby. And basically I just recorded the whole conversation and then found as many examples of what Jim was talking about and made a very long Cerebus TV episode out of it. We can maybe try and coerce Dave Fisher into going through his files of Cerebus TV episodes. I don't know where we would post it because it's I think an hour and a half long. I think it was a two-parter, but that was definitely one of the highlights of my life, was just sitting on the phone talking to Jim Steranko about Jack Kirby. And yes, Jim does have a remarkable bio. Julie Eng, our resident female magician, professional magician from that whole environment, at one point, I mentioned Jim Steranko and knowing Jim Steranko, and she was terribly impressed. And I don't think Jim Steranko has been a practicing magician since the early 1960s. I think probably before his stint at Marvel. So that tells you right there that he's not just a legend in the comic book field. He's a legend in the magic field. Not just, oh, okay, this comic artist used to perform magic, used to do Houdini style escapes. No, he was at the level where if you were at a magic convention and you said Steranko, there isn't a magician on the planet who wouldn't know exactly who you were talking about. That's terrifically impressive. That Jim Steranko doesn't harp on it or anything like that, but it's one of those things that you just discover. That we were lucky enough to have him in the comic book field, and they were lucky enough to have him in the magic field. Because you want to talk about excellence, that's excellence with a capital E. I haven't. I've got Steranko's phone number, and I'm always tempted to phone Jim just to shoot the breeze for a while. But he's Jim Steranko. He's got more important things to do. I remember it was either I think it was the last time that I phoned him, and he said, Dave, I'm standing here with a brush full of wet plastic. And it's like, right, okay, he's doing an acrylic painting. And that wet plastic doesn't stay wet for long, and he's probably mixed it up specifically to do a specific color and an effect. And here's Dave Sim on the phone just, hey, Jim, what's happening? It's like Jim Steranko's not a hey, what's happening kind of guy that you would phone. But it definitely warms the cockles of whatever passes for Dave Sim's heart, that he knows that he's got Jim Steranko's phone number and could phone him whenever he managed to work up the Dave Sim chutzpah to do that. Michael Grabowski.